Hi, my name is Sim.
I'm Ian.
We're here to talk about the psychology behind professional development, and today's topic is self image in the workplace. This is your too long didn't listen summary of the episode. Today, we explore the critical topic of self image in the workplace. Our self image is our core identity, which we contrasted with costumes and roles we wear professionally. The psychological tool Johari's window helps us map out our self awareness, showing what we know, what we share with others, and what is hidden. The takeaway is the danger of letting your job define you. When you conform your true identity, true self to the role, to keep your job or to advance in your career, you risk losing your identity and ultimately becoming unhappy. Improving your self image is an active process. It requires honest reflection and seeking constructive feedback from those you trust. By doing this, you can expand your self awareness, ensure your authentic self is aligned with your professional life. Now, back to the episode. Ian, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I guess by the time this is aired, I've finished a first time racing challenge, and I can say that it went well,
Yeah,
even though
what is a
recording
racing
it.
challenge?
So the racing challenge that I completed, even though I haven't taken yet, because again, when this airs,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been completed.
Ah,
But as we're
yes,
airing
okay,
it, as we're
right.
recording it, I haven't taken it.
Makes
So
sense.
the challenge is going to be, or has been, you do a 10K on one day, and then you do a half marathon the next day.
Ooh,
So
that's
yes, it was a great challenge, and it was a lot of fun. And no need to ask any more questions about this because again, I haven't even done it yet. So you can, or on the flip side, you can ask me as many questions as I want. I'll answer the
yeah.
questions, and then we'll determine later if those things truly came to fruition or not. So
I
if you
mean,
have
I'm
any
pretty sure
questions,
you beat your best time.
because it is the first time doing this, I will say yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
I did by many minutes.
Many minutes. Incredible, incredible. The dedication, I will tell everyone, right? The dedication you have put into this race,
Mm,
right? I hear you've been running
mm,
regularly, right? Just to get yourself ready for this race. And
right.
I am so excited that when you do this, you will have completed something that you have been working for
Since
months,
March.
since
Since
March.
March.
Yeah. So kudos.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Kudos,
Thank you.
kudos.
Yeah.
Now, this is a perfect segue to our topic, self-image in the workplace. When you think about self-image, what do you actually think about?
In terms of the workplace, or in terms on a daily basis without
Yeah,
the
let's
workplace?
go broad first.
I would think that self image is something how you view yourself, which may or may not truly reflect who you are.
Mm,
I think
okay.
that many times that you want to portray something about
Mhm.
yourself, maybe a component of yourself or yourself as a whole.
Right.
And maybe sometimes that works, maybe sometimes that doesn't. Maybe you read the room correctly and in the hopes that you do.
Mhm.
But I think self image is something that you believe it is the person that you are. And the person that you are will hopefully organically convey
Mhm.
itself to that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that. So I'm gonna distill it down to what I understood it to be,
Yeah.
and you
Yes.
help correct it. Okay, self-image is at the core of who we perceive ourselves to be, and
Correct.
that may show up, that may not show up, but with given enough time and exposure, that our true selves will come out.
That is correct. And I
And
think,
yeah,
well, I think stopping that, I think that the trueness
mhm,
consistently comes out.
yeah.
It's just the question of who sees it at what particular time.
uh, Okay, okay. I'm gonna rewind to
Mm,
a previous episode, all right, wearing our costumes.
that's
We
right.
talked about Batman, if you remember. We talked about K-pop demon hunters, okay? And we talked about like how we wear costumes in different spaces, different environments, and that costume helps us create, helps us network, helps us work, helps us at home, helps us in different spaces in life, right? Sometimes
Yep.
those costumes can be worn where it no longer serves us, right? Sometimes it can be too heavy where it keeps people away. So we've had this conversation previously. Now we're talking about our self-image. And this self-image is who we look at. That's at least my definition of it
Mhm.
is when no one's around, it's just me in the mirror, not an actual mirror,
Sure.
metaphorical mirror. I sit in silence thinking to myself and being myself. And the image that keeps popping up is caring, helpful, curious, spontaneous. These characteristics of me that no matter what costume I'm wearing, no matter who I'm working with, who I'm talking to, these are some of the key tenets that will always be with me. So that's how I define self image. I think we're almost on the same page with
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
I think so. You have a consistent image of yourself.
Hmm.
You have consistent descriptions of who you are. And I think that also there might be some other descriptions that you may not recognize that will pop up
Yeah.
when you least expect it. And I think that's also part of the self image where you recognize who you are,
Hmm.
obviously. And as you've mentioned, how you describe yourself.
Right.
And then it goes to someone may say, Emma is spontaneous. I didn't know that. So then
Yes.
the question is, wh- interestingly enough, how do you portray a component of your self image to
Hmm.
somebody? And
Right.
maybe they see that individual, maybe they see that component that either you didn't know you portrayed or they totally misconstrued as to what you portrayed.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this question because it sets me up so well to bring in some psychology background in here. Oh my gosh. So there is a phenomenon. I don't know if it's a phenomenon. There's a theory. It's called Johari's window. Have you heard this term?
I have
Johari's
not.
window? Perfect. This is wonderful because it segments us in four quadrants or quadrants, quadrant, right? One side is who we are, how
Mhm.
people see us, creating our self-image because we are all constantly in reference to another person, another environment, another stimulus to say like I am this, I am this. Right. One quadrant is how people see us. Third quadrant is how we see ourselves, but people don't see that. The fourth quadrant is what no one gets to see, not even us. And oftentimes this is environmental base. This is growing up. I never realized this, right? It is within, it is not within our understanding as of yet. Okay. So the first quadrant, it's the mutual understanding. It's like, oh yeah, Ian is ABC, Sim
Mhm.
is XYZ. Then when you ask for feedback, I love doing 360 feedbacks whenever I'm working with leaders. Like, yeah, I don't care how your leaders see you. How do your employees see you? And I ask, this is second quadrant, how do you see the other person? How do you see me? For example, I said I'm spontaneous. And you're like, wait, I didn't know Sim was spontaneous.
Right.
If I were to ask, Ian, how do you see me? You don't have to answer. I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for
Right.
this
That's
feedback.
okay.
But as we ask our friends and family member, how do you see me? Sometimes they'll start off by saying, like, you're this, you're that. It's like, yep,
Mhm.
I already know those. And then sometimes they'll also add things that you didn't fully acknowledge. For example, it could be you're messy. I don't see myself as messy. However that is, whatever that
Right.
is. You're loud. Whoa, I didn't think I was loud. Right. All these other components. So this is where the 360 really comes up. In the third quadrant, where we don't share with others, these are our hidden identities, characteristics, or where if we share it, we will feel extremely vulnerable. So we tend to safeguard that. And slowly, right, as we build trust, comfort, confidence, we slowly start sharing it and bringing it to quadrant one, right? From quadrant two, where we're getting feedback, okay, people see us ABC way, right? We try to either reject, validate, however,
Mm.
and bring it into quadrant one, right? And then quadrant four is things that haven't happened, you haven't gained exposure to it, et cetera, et cetera. You don't know how you would react in a certain situation, what core tenet is the question of if there's a gun to your head. Don't like using that phrasing, but if there's a gun to your head, what would you do? Right? That's an unimaginable situation where it is completely dark and we don't actually know what we would do. Even when we predict that, oftentimes that hasn't been the same situation, same response. So those are environmental factors. For example, this probably would have been a better example during COVID. The entire globe was locked down. In our lifetime, we have never experienced that. And within that time frame, we started learning more about ourselves personally,
Yes.
individually, as a community, and so on. And as we age, as we gain more life experiences, that's all the other quadrants start to, how do I not start to? Yeah, as we as we grow, it starts to shrink.
Oh,
Our
okay. So
quadrant one, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's the opposite of okay.
Yes, quadrant one becomes whole because we know ourselves fully. We have vulnerability where we are sharing with friends and family. That's quadrant three coming to
Right.
quadrant one and then shared with quadrant two. And we've experienced several different situations that we could never predict and say, like, oh, they still came out this way, that way. So as we grow, our quadrant one continues to grow. I just went off on like a, I don't know, this is 5 minutes.
Psychological theory and
Yeah. Yeah. I
it's
love
a good
Johari's
segue.
window. I love
Right.
Johari's window because it
Sounds like it.
yes, it's a simple concept of there's a community self, quadrant 1, there's feedback and things like that our friends and family don't like telling us unless we ask for it, right? And then there's things about ourselves we don't like sharing with our family, friend, colleagues, etc., because that makes us feel too vulnerable. And there's space where we have no idea because we can't even predict what we don't know.
So if I'm dissecting that psychological theory,
Yeah.
and I know we're talking about careers, you mentioned in the third quadrant that family and friends tell us things that, it allows us to be vulnerable because they're telling us things we don't want to hear. But then you went back to quadrant two about the things they do tell you, and it was they were negative examples, or unless I'm missing something here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
They don't have to be negative. They can be
got
positive.
it.
Like you're a philanthropist. Wow, I didn't know that. I wouldn't call myself
Yeah,
that, etc.
got it. Got it. Okay.
And quadrant 3 is things we know about ourselves that we're not sharing.
Right. In concern that we might hear things that will bring us down a little bit. It's that opening up to the vulnerability of possible negativity
Possible reaction,
or
just reaction.
right,
Or it's something. I'll give you an example. For me to create this podcast, for us to have this conversation, I hadn't shared it with anybody until I was ready. But
right.
I knew about it. This was one of my goals for multiple years. I knew about it. I was getting information, I was getting equipment, I was getting learning the skills. And then when I was ready, I shared it, right? And I said, Ian, you got time? You want to hang out? You want to have these conversations, right? And then there was a level of vulnerability for me to say, ask for help, right? Share like, "Hey, I've been tinkering with this idea for a while." It doesn't have to be an idea. It doesn't have to be a thought. It can be a belief too.
Okay. Okay. All right. So with all that being said,
Yeah.
if I guess one of the things, if I'm looking back here real fast, one of the things we're I guess wanting to discuss was your self image versus how others view you within a job setting. And I wonder how much stock we put into this concept. Is it because do we put a lot of stock in this concept because we're leaders and we want those who are leading to see us a certain way? Is it because we are entry level and we want to rise a little higher up, so we act a certain way, but maybe it's not who
Mhm.
we are? I know we'll talk about down the road imposter syndrome, and I say that because also the self-image that we're portraying, are we doing it because we feel we want to be seen a certain way so we can advance in our
Right.
careers,
Right.
but maybe that's not who we truly are? And
Oh,
I think we kind of briefly touched on this
yeah.
prior to the podcast about, you know, that maybe that could be networking, for example,
Mhm.
how much of a self-image we're putting into networking because we're doing it maybe we because we have to. And
Right.
maybe our self-image of, oh, you are a great network. You are just fantastic at networking.
Mhm.
But that's the image we want to portray because deep down inside we can't stand it. But we know we have to do it because it's
Right.
part of the job.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
There's a question there somewhere, Sim. Sorry.
no, 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 no. Like
Somewhere
I want to be
there was a
mindful of
question.
something that we're doing, right? Because there's some parallels between the costumes we wear that episode and this episode of do we put on a different costume, right? When we're talking about the way I understand it is self-image as an identity
Yes,
versus the clothes, the costumes that we're wearing in different environments.
that's a good way of putting it.
Right. And to your point of if I am a career starter versus I'm a career leader, that is an identity of where we are professionally. That's not a costume.
That's right.
Right. And in those moments, things change and how we behave changes. Right. Imagine a leader acting as if they are career starters or vice versa. It's hard to imagine
It is. It is.
at the same.
That's
Yeah,
yeah, I mean that could happen. That's a
it
possibility
does
of a
happen.
situation.
It does happen.
Mhm.
Honestly, the reason it does happen, I'll tell you an example. Like, I was working in a job and this new person came in acting like they knew everything, acting as if they were the boss, knew everything, all the process, et cetera, right? There's a level of arrogance to it. But then there was a level of confidence. Then there's a level of community. At the same time, there was a level of distance. It's like, you don't know what you're talking about. All these things happened because they felt they were more experienced than everybody in that same level. You follow me on that?
So, was their image that you think they wanted to portray of confidence and or arrogance was because they wanted individuals to follow him or her, and to portray that they needed to have other people on board saying that they know X, Y, and Z, maybe even more than
Yeah.
they thought that person did?
Exactly, exactly, and I give them credit for this,
Right.
okay? And I also recognize that we definitely will be talking about imposter syndrome soon, right? It's also a component of imposter syndrome. We put up a
Mm,
facade, right? We put up a facade so we are seen as more capable or, then our insecurities, our self-image, right, will lower us down because imposter syndrome
right.
weighs heavily. So we overcorrect, and this individual was overcorrecting to
Right.
compensate for that imposter syndrome and the lingering effects of that. And it took them 3 months to really lower that guard, right? Quadrant three
Mhm.
of saying, like, actually, I don't know how to do this.
So someone mentioned that person or that
That person mentioned it to the team saying, I don't really know how to do. Can you help
hmm,
me? That's the vulnerable side, right? We keep it to ourselves, and then when we are ready, we share it. Because from quadrant two, we saw this person as arrogant, cocky, ABC negatively. Some saw them as confident, and in the self-image of that person, they wanted to portray confidence by overcorrecting and poorly managing their imposter syndrome.
so how does one, if there's a phrase, improve your self-image?
Yeah,
Or can you improve? I mean, and I guess, can you improve a self-image?
absolutely.
Okay.
It is our identity is just like our appearance, right? You have to groom yourself, just like how we brush our teeth, that we shower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We need to work on ourselves, reflect. We need to ask the hard questions so we know ourselves more and more and more. That's how we change our self image. And when we go to quadrant two and ask our friends and family, hey, can you give me like two strengths and one constructive feedback
Sure.
of how you see me? Because I am actively working on improving myself,
So
right?
that takes a time to get to that point, though, to recognize, to say, hey, maybe I'm at a certain point in my life. Things may not be working to where I want them to be working,
Mhm.
or I'm seeing myself in a certain way. I don't know if I like the way I'm at right now.
Right.
So that takes a certain kind of, again, point in your life, but also a certain realization.
It
that some
does.
people may never experience to improve their self-image.
Correct. Correct. And the reason we talk about this a lot in society is you have to hit rock bottom sometimes. And then you are forced to adapt, change, or leave, right? Professionally speaking, that might mean you go on, you get in trouble at work, you get in trouble with your peers. There's conflict or avoidance of conflict is also a conflict, right? Because we are meant to work in a community style. If we would just work by ourselves without any other feedback, environmental feedback, we would not know what is right, what is wrong, right? And we couldn't really shape our self image. This episode is sponsored by Balanced at Last, my coaching services. That's balanced@last.com. If you are curious about how I can help you, please schedule a free consultation call, a 20-minute call to assess your challenges and ways my services can help you. Mention you are a podcast listener and receive 20% off your coaching services. Offer valid for a limited time. Visit balancedatLast.com or scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description below. Thank you for listening.
Is there an expectation that someone's self-image has to conform to their work environment?
Oh,
Or
yes. Oh,
do
my gosh.
so now that being said, so if the answer is yes, you have to conform, and I guess it gets into that kind of gray area as to if you conform, then are you truly your own self?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that
Think
must be
about
that's challenging as well.
absolutely. Absolutely is challenging. The the reason I say yes, and you don't know this about me, I am not a sports fan. Don't care,
Ki
right?
I kinda knew, but well, when you say touchdown when somebody hits a home run, you say touchdown, I kinda knew, but that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay,
That's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
You deduced I am not a sports fan.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. But we conform, like, for example, when UCF go Knights, I do this. Again, I just told you I am not a sports fan, but I am conforming to say go Knights
Mhm.
as I see it is part of my identity at this
Which
point.
part? Which part?
I
You saying
did
it's
my
part of your
undergrad
identity?
there, right? I did my grad school there.
Mhm.
I grew up in that neighborhood, in that area. So no matter where I am, if I see somebody I went to UCF, I'm going to say, go Knights. Do I care about sports? Absolutely not. But did I care about it? Did I conform to it when we were undefeated? Yes,
And this is coming from someone
absolutely.
who doesn't follow sports, and yet
Right.
yeah,
So there is a component to self-image, right? Even an organization has a level of pride that says, I went here, I am working here. That becomes a part of our identity, right? So I don't know if that answers some of that question,
it does.
but when
It
it
does.
becomes like identify, conform, or leave because you're having to shape yourself to fit in, then we have an
Mhm.
issue.
Is that I mean, and there are probably sacrifices that many people make for that to happen because of your point of they have to conform their self-image so they can have the job. And
Mhm.
I know from personal experience that I've had to do that many times. It
Yeah.
would have to I know who I am, but I also knew at the time for my
Mhm.
career that I need to be a certain way. I had
Yeah.
to portray a certain image that wasn't what I wanted to, who wasn't who I truly am. But for the sole fact to keep the job, to
Right.
continue the career path that I'm on.
Yeah.
Now, does that change your image over time?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
without a doubt. Then when you're conforming your self-image, then you're
Mhm.
slowly losing part of your true self.
Yes.
And it happened again
It happens way
quite a
too
few
much.
times, quite a few times.
Way too much. And the reason, okay, and I'm glad that you're saying this because we are rising something from our episode on wearing costumes,
You
right?
like
And
bringing
then
it
we're
up.
yeah, yeah.
It's a pivotal episode.
It
So in case you didn't listen
absolutely.
to it, it's
Oh my
pivotal.
gosh. You
Go
gotta
back to it and
see
listen to
how
it.
Ian is Batman. All right. The reason I say this is because in that episode, we talked about the longer you're wearing a costume, it starts becoming your identity, right? And I think in that episode, we were talking about how Batman is a persona, is an identity, is a costume. But as Bruce Wayne stays Batman longer and longer and longer, right? Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, right? It's no longer a costume I'm putting on, taking off.
Blurry line. It's a
It's
very blurry line.
exactly, blurry line, and it becomes meshed. And this is where so much danger happens, especially in my world, where I'll have people, I am unhappy with my life. I hate everything that I do. I don't even know why I'm in this career, in this job. They kept promoting me because I did a good job, but I hate what I'm doing. Right. And during COVID, we brought up COVID earlier. We saw so many people take risks to realign themselves with a different career path. Because from quadrant four, a situation and environment that has never happened, we're forced to find out and
Mm,
reprioritize ourselves so we can figure out what that looks like.
yeah.
Right.
And
And
yeah, and
that's like
it
a
became that. Yeah.
absolutely, globally, not just
Yes.
one or two individuals. It was a global phenomenon where people were admitting they were not happy. Doesn't matter what the salary was, what the position was, what it was, what organization it was. I'm not happy. This is not what I'm meant to do, right?
Yes.
The midlife crisis. I know that has been a thing for so many years. Midlife crisis is a correction point for many of us that tend to lose our identity, self image into our work, right? And this is where a lot of mid career individuals are. On average, they say that mid career average age is about 39 and a half.
Mm,
It's like that's when we realize, like, oh, I don't think I
mhm.
want to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know how to escape it, but I don't know, right? So this is why we're talking about self image and how people perceive us, because when we are not looking at the mirror, identifying our core tenets, right, then we can be swayed to a organizational value, to an identity. I'm living overseas. I don't know if I've shared this in the episodes before, but I'm living overseas right now. And one of the key component I see is most of the people that I meet overseas, they don't talk about what they do as a part of their identity, right? You have to ask like three or four questions before they'll tell you, oh, yeah, this is what I do. That's how I pay my bills. But in the States, as soon as you say, I'm this, I'm a
Mm,
lawyer, I'm a X, I'm
mhm.
a, it's so intertwined,
Intertwined?
intertwined, yeah,
Intertwined. Yeah.
intertwined with our identity in the US. I am what I do. Then when
Right.
you try to ask questions about like, okay, what do you do when you're not working? What do you mean?
Right.
I'm too busy not to do anything else.
Right.
Right, and this becomes the sole identity of so many people. I am what I do, and if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I don't know who I am.
So
And
at
this
that point, they don't know their self-image.
they don't know
They're
that,
basing their
yeah,
self-image on work specifically because that's all they
yes,
have. They put so much time and effort into.
absolutely. Like, we all do that, right? 40 hours a week, that's a lot of time and energy. But if you're not happy or if you're overwhelming yourselves and other parts of your life isn't being fulfilled, then we start isolating. That quadrant one becomes really small. People see us, our friends and family say, you're not happy. Why are you doing this? The quadrant three says, I'm not happy, but I can't complain. The imposter syndrome just starts growing. The doubt, the darkness starts to cloud everything. The reason I'm saying this is because I've seen so many identity crises, self-image crises when individuals are laid off.
Mhm.
And if it's your first, if it's your last, you've had multiple, right? That's coming from quadrant four. Something unimaginable happens. I call that a professional trauma,
Mm.
getting laid off. So, oh
Right.
my gosh, my entire identity, I don't know what I'm doing. What am I supposed to do? Who am I? The existential questions come up. No, we are talking about self image. And one of the key components of that I think we need to return to is what are your core tenets? What are your core values?
Yeah.
How often are you asking yourself that same question? Who am I? Right? Or asking your friends and family, how do you see me? In the professional setting, you can ask your manager, your colleague, and definitely ask other departments that don't get to work
Mhm.
with you. How do you see me? What are some of my strengths? What are some of the challenges that you see I have?
In the hopes that they're honest. And
Absolutely.
that's the thing is you want them to be honest, and maybe they think that they're being set up, or maybe they
Yeah.
think that you can't handle what they have to tell you,
Yeah.
because it could be on both ends of the spectrum. It could be really, really good, or it could be like, you gotta work on this.
It's true.
In
It's
addition to that, you have to believe them. Now,
yes.
are you the person that will take the feedback and do something with it if you ask
Huh?
that person their honesty? Right. That's the
Yeah.
thing is, if
Yeah.
someone says, "You know what? You've got to come to work more and prove to yourself that you want this job." Are you going to say, "Yeah, I guess I'm not committed enough. I guess I need to work 13 hours instead of the 9 that I'm working today?"
Great.
Are you going to be saying you need to laugh at more of our jokes? Are you going to be saying you shouldn't be too friendly? Are they going to say
Mhm.
you're not friendly enough? How much are you going to take stock
Right.
in that?
That's fantastic question. And, there's key components that I wanna rise from what you just said.
Mhm.
First is trust, right? If you don't trust the people that are giving you the feedback, you should not be asking them for the
Right.
feedback.
That's right.
Period, right? If they don't have your best interest at heart, you should not be asking them for your feedback, right? And as we talk about scary bosses previously,
Mhm.
right? We'll talk about toxic leadership, toxic boss, and colleagues later. Key component is trust. Who do you trust? Because we don't call our friends without trusting them, right? Family members, same thing. We can have so many family members and there may be some we don't trust to give correct feedback or feedback that is constructive, right? The component of asking for feedback should be constructive, not destructive, right? Again, the way I'm seeing this is you don't have to ask everybody. Ask one person when you're just starting. And when I do like a corporate training,
Mhm.
right? They assess for trust immediately. Are they engaged? Nope. Okay, there's trust
Yeah.
missing, right? Are they free flowing or is there hesitancy? Okay, trust is damaged, right? There's so many different levels of trust because we don't share everything with all of our friends or family member. There's degrees and levels of
That's true.
trust, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So when we're thinking from again, I go back to Johari's window,
Mhm.
right? It's a quadrant, how the community and self see each other. Everyone sees this image. Quadrant two, where our friends and family members see it, but we may not accept it or see it yet. Parts of ourselves, thoughts, beliefs that we don't share with others, fear of vulnerability, and fear of rejection or destructive comments. In quadrant four, essentially a situation we have never experienced before.
Mm.
How do we react? Right. And the whole point of our self image is to continue increasing our awareness for quadrant one, becoming more vulnerable from quadrant three. So we can see how much we can grow and give ourselves. Because when we talk about self image, we haven't gotten to this word yet, being authentic,
Mhm.
right? Because that is two different things.
Oh, yeah.
That is two
Yes,
different
it is.
things.
Yes, it is.
Right. And the more we can expand our quadrant one, the more authentic we can become.
I think that sometimes when you do have these self-image
Yeah.
issues and how to conform with work, when do you establish that no matter how much you conform, it's not enough? Maybe it's time to move on. Is there everybody is unique, everybody, will find their own way, or is there like a milestone of some sort that must be reached to say, you know what, this no matter how much I do, no matter how much I change, it's
Yeah.
not going to change.
Yeah. I think I understood your question. So let me
Okay.
repeat it.
Yes.
Right. So the question that I'm understanding is when do we know when to leave? Because it's
Right.
not working for us, because we're
You're showing
conforming too much.
yes, yes, I'm conforming too much, it's still not working, I've
Yeah.
been authentic. I mean, this is my authentic self. My authentic self has been told I need to change because I need to,
Yeah.
for whatever reasons,
Right.
and I've done that, it's not working, so
Yeah.
I've been authentic, I've
Right.
been not authentic,
Yep.
still not working either direction. What is there? is there a certain milestone that you have to reach? You're like, then it's not going to work at all, or do you
Yeah.
just
Um, there is. There is, and it is dependent on each and every individual because if you are going back to our identities we discussed, if you're starting your career, right, you have different responsibilities. If you're a leader, you have different responsibilities, right? Not just to the organization, but to yourself, to your family, to your friends, and so many other components of yourself, right? In as when we are younger, we have fewer identities. So
right?
I'll share this example. When we are born, we have two identities, right? Baby, child, right? As we grow up a little bit, right, then we have a classmate, right? Then as we grow up even more, brother, sister, and
Right.
so on, right? And when we get to the professional world, we go from student to colleague to partner to parent or son or daughter. And then as we grow even more, we continue to have more and more identities, right? And as we start recognizing certain identities fall off, right? For example, mid career, you're no longer in school unless you
Right.
just returned. So that falls off, right? If you got married, you're a partner as well, right? If you have kids, then you're a parent and so on. It changes. But one of the things that I've recognized is in the States, that career identity starts taking up more and more of ourselves. It's no longer you're not, let's say you have four different identities. You're not giving equal time or energy to all
Sure.
four, right? And this is where I see a lot of identity crisis, a lot of anxiety, depression from a career perspective, because we are what we do, and what we do matters because we do. If I am not working, that means I can't provide for my family, and that
That's right.
means
Yeah.
so on and so forth. So this is why I say it's complex, and this is why you really need to talk it out with someone to find some clarity in how you see yourself and how others see you before you can say, you know what, organization, I'm done, right? Or, you know what, I've conformed too much. And when we conform too much, what happens is it breaks our identity because you can't just spring back and say, like,
Yeah.
I know
That's true.
exactly who I am and who I've always been.
Sure.
No, no, that's not how it works. You have to start unwinding those identities, those compromises that we've had to make to fit in. And once we start unpacking that, we can return back to our true self and our self image.
Yeah. I totally am on board with the notion that we spend so much of our self-image work-based. Leaving certain careers, I put a lot of stock into that, and then I lost the remainder of my self-image as to what it looked like because the majority of my self-image was so focused on the career that I was in, the job I was in.
Hmm.
So I and it took a while, and it's still, it's an ongoing process to discover who you are and your strengths and whatnot. But that being said, at least now there is more focus on what I enjoy doing and the person that I am and the strengths that I have that weren't, I guess, recognized in previous careers or jobs. And it wasn't the job or career's fault at all. It was just the amount of time and effort you put into that job and career. You can't put your career you can't put energy into five things at once.
No.
You have to
Yeah.
energy has to be put in one thing at one time,
I hate that
So
truth.
so it just is so it is. And I'm also guilty of this. I was just at an event recently where even I'm asking the people I haven't even met, hey, how are you? We're saying next question. What do you do? Just and in my head, I'm thinking this is the right thing to say, but
Yeah.
recognizing it is the wrong thing to say. It's absolutely
It is.
that's not how you meet people. I know it's a whole different other issue to address.
Right.
Uh,
Like
but
for
yeah,
me,
it's
oh my gosh, no, Ian, like I wish everyone that's listening, okay? Everyone that's listening, start off with what do you do on your free time?
yeah.
That's all you got to add on
Mhm.
your free time, right? The conversation will be different. I guarantee you that. As soon as I started flipping that, yeah, hi, how are you? What do you do on your free time? Especially when I'm speaking with people in the US. So, What? Right? Because in the US, from my experience, we're primed to say what we do almost immediately.
Absolutely. That's your identity.
Yeah. When I'm working with people overseas. So what do you do on your free time? Oh yeah, I do this, right? And it's a better question because you get to extrapolate on different parts of their interest, not
Right.
their job, but the individual themselves.
Correct. Yeah. And also it's interesting is two avenues from that is
Yeah.
number one, how many times have you heard the answer of I don't have free time? I mean,
Yeah.
and it because I've heard it a few times, and avenue number 2 is the amount of time it would take for them to answer that question is probably a 20 or 30-second time lapse because
Yes.
they probably either haven't been asked that question before, number 1, or number 2, they probably haven't put thought into it because of the fact that they don't know what they do in their free time or, besides the default, I watch TV
Yeah.
or I'm on email or whatever. I mean, that's great, but I think maybe sometimes you want to hear more than I watch TV in my free time.
Hmm.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
I think it's a great way to confront that.
absolutely, absolutely, and like I watch free I watch TV on my free time, right? But that opens up what shows do you watch? But if I say, I check my emails and at work, okay,
Mhm.
what do you do? Okay. How long have you been doing it? Okay. The questions are so, how do I say it? It continues to reinforce that we need to know everything about our jobs,
Correct. Or
right? Because
how much
that
you're
is our
tied into your job. Yeah, how
yeah,
much you're tied into your job. You check your emails during work. Oh, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, what kind of law? Oh, do you like what you do? Oh, so you know so and so in the law field. Oh, so your office is where? So yeah, to your point, it's not knowing the person, it's knowing the
correct.
occupation.
Yes. I love
So it's
that.
not
It's
so
not
it's not
knowing the person, it's knowing the occupation. That is solid. Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. And this is why we're having this episode, we're having this conversation because our self-image
Mhm.
changes by the roles we play in life, right? Our societal environment, right? We're talking about the US and globally, how we prioritize one identity over all the other parts of who we are. Johari's window,
Mhm.
where we're really trying to get to show the world who we truly are in all aspects of it, but we need help from our friends and family, trusted friends and family, to give us constructive insights into who we are and how we are perceived. And we also have to be willing and a bit forthcoming, courageous to be vulnerable in sharing our ideas and thoughts that we keep hidden because we are afraid to get a reaction, positive or negative, right? And also staying curious because there are always going to be situations that we're not prepared for, like quadrant four, like the pandemic, right? We're not prepared for, but how do we adapt? Like layoffs, how do we adapt? Right. Self-image is, at the end of the day, strip everything away and you are looking in the for me, right? When you're looking in the mirror, when you're having a conversation with yourself without distractions, who are you and what do you value? What are your values? What are your tenets? What's your North Star? Start returning to that. And no matter what costume you wear, no matter what job you have, you'll recognize, yeah, I know who I am, right? I'm looking at the time. I want to give
Yep.
you the floor for thoughts, last comment.
Last comments. Yeah, I think that for those that are listening, I know we're all different. We all have our self images that are different. We all have who we are versus who we want others to see us, and it is challenging. It can be challenging, but to your point of going back to recognizing what your north star is, your what your values are, I think that's the starting point, and everything else will fall into place over time. And that's something I had to figure out.
Same here.
And this is not an overnight thing. This is not a figure it out on your own. This is talking to other people. This is getting support from other people. This is, communicating with individuals who have
Okay.
your best interest in mind. And that they want to help you. So, if you find that your self-image, if you're losing who your self-image is, just get that support from those who can help you find your North Star if you haven't found it or if you lost your way. So, yes, those are my
Yeah.
those are my
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this episode. Thank you for joining us. See
thank
you
you,
in the next
everybody.
one.
All right, have a good one.